We're back at Success Through Connections. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the world's fast-paced and AI. So the world moves pretty fast. We all know that. And AI is evolving. It seems like every day there's something new to learn about AI. And it's at a pace that who can keep up with this pace? But if you don't keep up, people are saying, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be outpaced? Am I going to be outperformed? Am I going to be outpositioned? We're going to talk a little bit about that today because we have good news. My guest today is Leila Ansart, and she is an expert in this field. And she is going to talk to us about how you can stay ahead of the game and not worry about losing your job, okay? I believe that everybody's job is probably okay. It's like you just have to keep up. But we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. So let me tell you a little bit about Leila. She is a professional speaker. She is an executive coach and a team results expert. So she leads the company called Leadership Impact Strategies. It is an advisory firm that specializes in accelerating your team's alignment, collaboration, and accountability. That's a good one, accountability. So in this world of AI, there's so much new that's going on. And one of the things that she did this year was she created an AI training and consulting service for those small to medium-sized businesses so that you don't get left behind. So welcome, Leila. I'm so glad you're here to help us with this AI and all this new technology coming in.
Thanks, Zelda. It's great to be here.
So one of the things I like to ask people is, what in the world was there that was the defining moment or the spark that lit you up to say, ooh, I want to learn more about AI and really dive into it?
Well, that's a great question. I've been an early adopter. So let's see, it's December of 2025 now. ChatGPT came out in November of 2022, so 3 years ago. I think it was just, a curiosity, wanting to see what this AI thing was all about and realizing that it really removed barriers to learning. I mean, when I first went into ChatGPT, I just asked it questions and pretended I could ask, the dumb questions that we all tuck away in the back of our minds on some topic that we really wish we knew more about. And I would just ask it questions and watch as it pulled information from various sources. And that's kind of what got my curiosity going to learn more.
What happened to me, I happened to be attending a real estate conference, and the woman was actually talking about Canva, and she mentioned ChatGPT, and I thought, I've heard of that. I don't know what it is. She started explaining it to me, and the curiosity got the better of me. And I went home instantly, and this was probably 2022, and started playing around with it and fell in love with it. Just, oh my gosh, how did I exist before ChatGPT? Now there's so many more. So was there someone in your life that helped shape your thinking about leadership and staying ahead of the game with AI, or just in general, because you talk about leadership a lot?
Yes, I do. That's really the world that I have entrenched myself in. And I'll give you a little backstory on that. I grew up in an environment where I experienced a lot of poor leadership. And it wasn't, it's not like one of those things where you walk into a bad situation and you know that it's a bad situation. So it was sort of hiding in plain sight. And so I had a lot of firsthand experience with what it's like when someone who is in a leadership or supervisory position takes advantage of people and manipulates others, or just doesn't care enough to take the time to build trust and to create an environment where people win, not just the leader wins. And coming out of that environment, it really kind of birthed a curiosity in me. I guess that word's coming back around on what could be different. What does real leadership look like? And so I went down a rabbit hole in my late 20s of researching, why do humans work well? Like, how do we get great results? Why do we get great results? And I was curious about that. And then when you start to take a look at, you sort of look inward and go, well, why did I achieve that goal I had and I didn't achieve this one? And how can I do better other than just sheer force of will, which is sort of the old school way of thinking about success, is just push through, never give up, always keep putting one foot in front of the other. And there's value to that. But, there's a lot more as well. And so when I went down that rabbit hole and kind of decided for myself who I wanted to be, as a contributor in the world around me, as a contributor in my own job, and then what kind of leader I wanted to be when I got in positions where I was leading others. It, the experience that I started with, and then all of that learning around what does it take to create a better environment for people to do their best work and to do it in a way where they feel fulfilled, where they feel like they're making a difference, where they feel like they're really moving the needle in a way that they specifically are contributing to. And that's what got me as passionate as I am about leadership. And, at the end of the day, we all spend hours and hours doing whatever it is we do to put the bread on the table, right? So if you're in a position where you are influencing others, whether that's directly or indirectly, wouldn't you want to do that to influence others and to create an environment around you where you're creating that motivational environment, not just motivational raw, but an environment of trust where people naturally bring their best work out because of the energy you're bringing to that situation.
So, Leila, have you noticed when you work with leaders in what you do, and this has nothing to do with AI, but hey, I'm going with the flow. Do you notice any difference between male and female leaders?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think we're all different. What specifically are you curious about in that question?
I hear a lot of people tell me that, and this is not, well, I'm just going to put it out there. They say that women leaders are tougher.
To their direct reports.
They're not as pleasant to work with.
Interesting. Well, I'll give you my experience. First of all, I just want to acknowledge that everybody's experience is their truth, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not experienced as an entrepreneur forever, so I wouldn't know.
Right.
I hear this repeatedly, and I'm like, what's wrong with the women? Are these bosses?
So I think there's a shift, over the decades as we've been coming from the old school mentality where, one style of leadership, which has, aligned with a traditionally male style of leadership, has been the one at the forefront. And there have been less opportunities for women as we're shifting into a newer era, and have been for a while and still have a lot of work to do, by the way. But certainly we are shifting. There's been less opportunities for women. And then as that's slowly increased and there have been more, part of the transition of the mindset of how do we need to lead, it happens little by little. So in my experience and through the stories that I haven't ever worked for a woman who was incredibly difficult to work for, to be honest, that has not been my experience. But I can understand, and I've heard people that I trust who have had that experience over the years. Mm-hmm. Now, my current group of friends are incredible women. A lot of them have corporate positions. They're, area presidents, they're CEOs. Not all of them are at that high level, but several of them are. And they believe just as strongly in the qualities of good leadership that I referenced earlier as I do. I mean, they realize that creating an environment where the people that you're working with can bring their best work to the table, it just makes sense. I mean, it's not the old way of doing things anymore. My way or the highway is no longer the reality.
Well, you mentioned leadership. What makes a good leader? What are some good leadership qualities?
Yeah. So I think the very first one is curiosity. It goes hand in hand with humility, because just because you're leading something doesn't mean you have all the answers. And the leaders who are willing to hear from their teams, their mid-level managers, all the way down to their frontline employees about the experiences that they're having, both internally and externally with their clients and customers, they're the ones who are willing to have some humility and to be curious, because what goes on in the boardroom is a very different reality than what is going on, down the hall in a cubicle or, out in, upstate New York in that particular location of a company. And so humility and curiosity, I think, are huge. Empathy and inclusion, I think, are really important. And that's that idea of taking a look at the human component of your teams, realizing that we all want to do something that's important to us, meaning we want to do work that matters, whether that means I'm, drawing something that's going into a larger product that's going to be, creating a bigger solution. I want to have my piece of that pie be something that matters. So the time I'm spending means something in the world, right? And in order to create an environment where you can help people to make that connection, the work that they are doing to what matters, and to treat them as humans that deserve respect, no matter their differences, that inclusion and that empathy, that human relation component, I think is really important.
So, Leila, and I've heard this from several people who are employees in corporate world, and I don't come from corporate world, so I don't know, but they go into a meeting where a boss or the higher up is asking them for their opinions on things. And you would think that, they want them to be honest and all that. But when they were honest about it, their job was threatened.
Mm.
Is that a common thing? It's like, if you ask, I tell people they just want to hear yes and agree with them. I mean, those are just those companies, and you don't know. They're asking you for your opinion and what you think because you're on the front line. And then your job could be do they really want to know what you think?
Well, the they in that question is a bit murky. So
let me just which company are you talking about, Zelda?
Right. No, what I mean is, look, everybody's experience is provided by the manager that they're working with. So you could have, Acme Corporation down the road, and you have 50 fantastic managers, and you have 50 crappy, old thinking, stubborn, self-involved managers. So people are people, right? The saying, like, there's always bad apples in every bunch.
Yeah.
If we can get past the who's the good one, who's the bad one, and really think about how we're showing up in our role, and is the way that I'm showing up helping to push my team forward? Am I helping them to, am I helping to solve their problems? Meaning a leader should be getting rid of the friction so the team can do the work it's designed to do, right? But also, am I showing up as a human in a way that respects others and that provides a space for people to be real, right? I'm having a bad day, right? Or my neck is hurting, or be real about who we are as humans, but still do the work. And when you ask people, your example of someone asking what their opinion is, but then maybe their job is at play, there's some nuance there too, right? If my manager is going to ask me for my opinion and all I'm doing is sort of vomiting, excuse the poor language, vomiting my complaints, you're just saying the negative happening, right? That's not helpful. What the manager, by the way, could be coaching the person to say, like, this is the kind of feedback I'm looking for. But the kind of feedback in giving your opinion that's helpful is to say, well, you know what? I noticed this is happening over here, and then connect the dots. Because this is happening, which in their mind they might be saying is a pain in the butt, this is happening over here, but the impact of that is that it's slowing down our process here. And I think an alternate solution might be to try X or to try Y.
That makes
so coming at it from here's what I'm noticing, here's the result of what is happening, and here are some solutions that we could try. That's a team progress forward-looking way of giving feedback. And if a manager isn't getting that from their team, there's reasons that are underneath that, right? So it's not an easy open and shut, this is good, this is bad. But that's why, to me, that's the exciting part of the work that we do. We are team results specialists at my firm, and we help organizations to kind of untangle that messy ball of yarn, to say, like, stuff's slowing down, there's bottlenecks, there's friction, there's misaligned priorities, we think we've got the same priorities, but yet we are pursuing sort of different versions of that priority. And so it's slowing down our work. And all of that can be really worked through if you have someone who can facilitate the right conversation and build trust in a room, so that you can bring the people together to come together and say, let's find a solution here, and let's point fingers.
Yeah. So let's trade tracks a little bit here and get back to the AI a little bit. So that's some great information. I love it. It's like, okay, leadership. So it's kind of like what you were saying. It's like when you come into the organization, you're looking at it's kind of like a bird's eye view. You're seeing different aspects of it, and you go, okay, I can get out of the weeds here. Y'all are in the weeds, and let me help you put some new strategies in place. So that's really good. So when we talk about AI, though, and we talk about the pressures because you don't keep up or it's always rapidly changing, what does that pressure look like in real life to people?
Well, in today's day and age, in I'm going to speak from the corporate standpoint, right? And by corporate, I mean organizational. So it might be a nonprofit you work for, it might be a public entity, but organizations of people working together towards an outcome. I think there's a lot of awareness around AI and a lot of people who have jumped on using, ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or what have you, their tool of choice, and they're using it to write better emails or they're using it to have it scan reports and pull out data, or they're using it to, put proposals through there and say, help us to customize, an RFP and help us to customize our response based on our particular expertise or specialties. So a lot of like reading it and scanning and analyzing and things of that, which are great. What I think is happening right now is people, at least those that are adopting, are at a point where they're starting to see so much of what is possible, but they just don't have time and capacity to take advantage of all of it while doing their day job. So there's this pressure. I need to adopt, I need to implement, but at the same time, I still need to perform at 100% with the role that I'm in. So how do I do both? That's a lot of what I'm seeing right now.
Wow. I can't imagine. I mean, I use chat and I use perplexity and occasionally those are my go-tos, but I'll also use some of the others just to explore them because there's so much more than just writing an email and that type of thing or
Yes.
writing me a social media post and stuff like that. And each one can do something else a little different. I mean, now they have AI that can mimic your voice. That's scary. It's like, I think the actors and actresses are in trouble.
But yeah, plus all the deep fakes. I mean, that's a whole
nother alley. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, AI is, I think people don't realize, which kind of floors me, that it can do so much more than that. I use it. I can't imagine my life without AI. I just can't.
Yeah.
I use it every day for all kinds of things, for strategies and it's my assistant.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's a digital assistant is a great way to put it. I'm going to hear a funny story. I actually this last week built a custom GPT to help me to expand my mindset. And what I mean by that is I'm working on a particular way of thinking about my business expansion with a coach. And we came up with a reality that I want to believe. I want to believe in this idea of abundance. That's kind of big picture. It was more specific around that idea, but I want to believe that, but my programming, and this is some of what I believe, the programming in my head was telling me there's not enough of that, or, this isn't an opportunity. And I'm a big believer in look at the facts, yes, but also look at your programming because our experiences predict and determine how we view the world and what we think is possible for us. And so this is so fun. I went in, I create custom GPTs all the time for different reasons, but I went in and I was like, okay, this is my prompt. You are a mindset coach. And I gave it several of my personal authors and speakers that I follow that I really connect to. And then I said, I want to believe more in abundance in this particular area of my business. However, I'm having trouble seeing this particular obstacle. Help me find data to see if my, restricted thinking, my fear-based thinking is true. And so I had it, I programmed in some things and then I said, double check and push back on me here and clarify here and don't make stuff up, which is definitely a clause you should always put in almost all of your instructions. And it was really cool because it asked me, to specify in the paragraph that I typed in about what I was feeling, it asked me to specify where the real disbelief point was. I specified it and then it said, okay, let me do my research. And it went out and it found me 5 or more, and I didn't count, 5 different examples of opportunities in my market where there are people asking for this service that I was thinking about offering. And that way I could look at it from the data perspective. And so then I could say to my mindset, I need the data, but I also need to decide, am I being limited here by my own fear? And putting those two together with the results of the ChatGPT custom agent was incredible because then I could just like you would talk to a great friend who has all the knowledge that you don't have on a particular topic. Again, keeping in mind it does hallucinate and it's not all accurate. But I had this conversation with it over about 20 minutes where I, sort of digested the examples that it gave me, and it helped to open up my thinking. And I did it strategically from the standpoint of, I want to shift my mindset here.
That is brilliant. I did something similar to that about a year or so ago where I said, ask me 20 questions. I don't even remember what I was trying to create because it was that long ago. But it was like, I want you to ask me 20 relevant questions. And so it asked me the questions to get me what I was looking at. But I was just that while you were saying that, I was writing notes because I love what you were saying, because you can be sure that when we're done with this podcast, because I am putting together my 2026 strategy. And so
nice.
You had some real good golden nuggets there. So for those of you listening, that was powerful. It's like, yes, it's all about the prompts.
Yeah, it really is.
It's about the prompts.
Yeah. And what I love about it, and this is to utilize it both personally and professionally, yes, but you get to tell it who you want it to reference in terms of the kind of voice, the kind of information, and the kind of tone that you're looking for. So if you're in, commercial real estate, you can say you're an expert in this field, and you can list specific experts that if you had all the time in the world, you would read all that content, listen to all of the amazing knowledge from that person or that set of people. If you say, you're in tech and you want to learn a specific thing, you can give it that reference point. And I feel like most of us know that by now, but really taking advantage of that so that when you ask it a question, you're not just saying, go out into the internet and find me any answer on this. You're telling it which lane to stay in so that the content you get back is more valuable and more targeted to you.
So we're talking really about let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that you need to do to up-level your AI knowledge today. So it's not just, we all know the simple little, questions you can ask it, but we're talking about up-leveling here. This is really getting into deeper prompts. So do you see some mistakes people generally make when they're learning, or they know a little bit more than, a beginner in AI? Do you see some mistakes that they're making?
Yeah. So two come to mind, and these are both relatively basic, but I do think they're worth addressing just in case some of your listeners are not using it all that much yet. The first one is garbage in, garbage out. And the idea is, if you're asking a question and you don't feel like the response is a quality, targeted, specific enough for what you're looking for, it's getting that answer from the way you ask the question. So if you think about it like an eager intern, right? Think about it. And if you've never had an intern work for you, think about it like someone who is just starting to see, maybe a teenager who wants to make money and is, agreeable and eager to please. And where's that teenager, by the way? No, just kidding. So I'm just saying, someone like that, young in their career and their experience, but who wants to help. But when you ask for something, you have to give enough details to guide them in getting to what you want. So that's number one. If you're using it and feeling like it's really just a glorified Google, then you're not using it correctly. And it's a really easy shift to move from where you are to the next step up. So that's number one.
Do people use Google?
The traffic has dropped quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. And Google has Google AI now too.
That's
so
true.
You're,
That's exactly right.
Kind of tapping into both.
Exactly.
The second kind of basic mistake, but is worth sharing, is you really need to be careful what you put into it. Just like if we go back to the metaphor of the overeager intern, you cannot upload sensitive documentation into it and ask a question based on that documentation. That is a security risk. That information, think of it like a two-way street. Unless you have certain guardrails put into place, which you can do, and it's not overly difficult, it's basically a two-way street. What you ask is pulling down information, and what you upload, attach a document or copy and paste into your question, that is the other direction. It's going up and being shared. So you just need to really be thinking about, making sure you're not putting sensitive information, medical, financial, account numbers, processes, IP, all those types of things, even when you're experimenting with your own, just on a personal level.
So how do you stay ahead of AI and not feel like you're always having to catch up, because there's always something new? Every time I attend a new AI webinar or something, I got to quit looking at those things, because I end up with a list of, here's some new AI tools to go check out. How do you stay ahead, but don't feel like I've got to keep learning more and more? And that's where the pressure
Yeah,
comes in.
absolutely. So, what I would say is it's a mindset shift. There will never be enough time, Zelda, ever, for you and I to stay up on all of the tools that are being launched. That both the main tools and then all of the cool apps and neat things that people are building off of the main tools. I mean, there's just no way. It is literally impossible. So, to shift your mindset from how do I stay up on everything to where do I focus my time when it comes to I think that is a helpful way to go about it. Choose one of the main interfaces. So ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, Google AI, Gemini, choose one to start with. You're going to pick your favorite. If you experiment here and there, that's great. They all kind of have their own flavors,
Right.
And they change. Every time there's an update, all of a sudden, everything that you decided about ChatGPT may not be so true anymore. It may have shifted by 30 degrees. So pick one for right now so that you're practicing your skills and you're utilizing it. And then really shift your attention to what is a repetitive task that I do on a regular basis that I could try to come up with an AI solution for. That way, your exploration into AI is really led by a target outcome that you're looking for. Maybe that's, I go to these 3 civic groups or a church group or a professional networking group. Maybe I'm a member of these 3 or 4 different things. And I would like to have all of that information in one view so that I'm not popping between, right, websites, right? Something even that simple. If it's something that is taking you 2 hours or more a week, then experiment how you could automate or use AI to shorten up that curve so that you're saving time. And then the other piece, besides the specific focused outcome, is use it to brainstorm even how you could go about that. So if you don't know and you're like, well, I have to run this report every Friday and it makes me roll my eyes and, it's like nails on the chalkboard, but I have to do it, then ask AI without putting the report in at this point. I have to run a report, it's in Excel format, or I'm pulling from these 3 or 4 different sources and I need this kind of an output. Brainstorm with me how I could automate or shorten up this workflow so that I can save time. And you're never wanting to replace yourself in that process. That's the whole point, is that it's still imperfect. The idea is if you can, instead of starting at a blank page or the initial of your report creating, you're trying to push yourself forward, 40, 50, 60%, so that you're picking up the project several steps into it. You're bringing your human expertise and your human perspective in to continue and get to the end point of that particular task or project with that help on the first half. That's what you're looking for.
That is so well said. I know that, I was working on my 2026 strategic plan, and it was like, okay, what things can I outsource? What things do I need to do that I have to do? And then so I'm implementing it now. And one of the questions I asked, I guess it was yesterday, I said, okay, let's look at this plan. And this was typed into the prompt. Okay, this is what I'm working on today, the 2026 strategic plan. What do I need to do today? That was it.
Yeah.
And it went into my plan and it said, this is what you got to do today, Zelda. And it calls me by my name and it's told me what to do. And when I finished that, I said, okay, I finished that. Took all day. What do I need to do now? They said, take a break. It said, take a break. Good job. Oh, yeah, done.
That's great. I love that.
Right. So I've got a question is if we want our listeners here to walk away with just one action that they can do today so that they can maybe future-proof their careers for tomorrow, what's that one thing they should do to stay ahead of the game?
That's a complicated question, Zelda. When is there ever just one thing that we need to do?
I know, but
all right, let me think about that for a minute. Yeah. What I would say is, and in my answer, I'm going to kind of circle back to a question that you started the episode with, which was, how do we make sure AI doesn't replace us? When we have fear and stress around that topic, I would say the one thing to do is think about what could you do in your role if you were less bogged down by administration and repeat work, and you could really kind of inch your way 20% into your best work, your most strategic work, your best brainstorming, your most best design work, whatever it is for you, your relationship building, perhaps. If you could eliminate 20% on this side so that you could shift what you're doing on a daily basis into your best work, what would that look like for you? And I think that helps us in whatever role we have, whether we're an entrepreneur or we work for ourselves or we work, oh, that's the same, or we work for someone else. If you think about if this role that I'm in now could do, if the capacity were expanded, not to do more and be burnt out, but to do better work that's more aligned to my gifts and to the strategic part of this role, what would that look like? And that can help you to define where to place your learning time within AI. And it enables you to create some safety around the role that you're in because you're combining, leveraging AI with the human expertise and the human component that is, what that role needs.
And I'm going to add to that. And if you don't have the answer, ask ChatGPT. It'll give me five. Give me five answers to that question. Ask the question.
Yes.
Once it knows who you are, it's going to give you the answers.
Yeah. And can I add to that? One of my favorite prompts after it gives me a really great, robust answer is to say, now play the devil's advocate.
Oh.
What could I be missing here?
Ooh.
And then you can put the lens on it, right? If I'm brainstorming for client expansion, I could say, what could I be missing here from the viewpoint of my target market? If I'm playing the how do I stay relevant in my role? What could I be missing here from the view of my direct supervisor and the C-suite of this company? And that way, it's a way of, just pushing back a little bit on that overeagerness that AI is producing right now to make sure that the answers you're getting really are as targeted as they can be.
That's great. My problem comes when it's giving you all the answers. And then it says, now what would you like me to do? And it gives you 5 different things. It's like, yeah, let me jump down that rabbit hole.
Remind me to stop and take a break. It's like it did. It did.
I actually did that. Yes, I said, I need to take a break. I said, we can pick up on this tomorrow.
Yes, for sure.
It's my best friend. Oh my gosh. So Leila, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been wonderful. It's gone in all kinds of directions that I had no idea, which is perfect. So how can our listeners reach you if they want to hire you, they want to bring you in to speak, they need a coach, whatever it is that they need that results expert, how can they find you?
Absolutely. So our website is leadershipimpactstrategies.com. You're welcome to look us up there. And then, of course, you can always reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. So it's LinkedIn and then just search my name, Leila Ansart. There are a lot of vowels there, so just watch your spelling to make sure that you find me. But I'd love to hear from anyone, of course. Feel free to reach out, connect, ask a question, or just say hello.
And we will put that in the show notes as well so they can find you. So that won't be a problem. So I have one last question, my signature question I ask all my guests. If you could, can you share a story of how an opportunity presented itself to you because of a connection that you had?
Yes, I had so many when I was thinking about this question. So I currently, as you mentioned, I've expanded into our firm, which does leadership training and consulting and all those things. We've expanded into doing AI training and AI strategy in the last year. And part of what helped me to take my firm from an executive coach doing just executive coaching to partnering with other experts all around the country and being able to offer all of these amazing services that we now offer now, that growth and that idea expansion came from a connection who introduced me to a resource that I now use. That's a high-level mastermind I'm a part of. And that never would have happened if I didn't have that one connection. And that connection I met through a course that I took during 2020, during the pandemic. It was an online course, just tried to stay in touch, make friends, stay in touch with the people I was learning alongside. And it really turned into an amazing expansion because of that relationship.
I love that story, how it was a digital online course that you met someone that led a couple of years later to this new course that you're taking. That's Wonderful story.
Yeah. And all the growth and expansion that our business has seen over the last 6 years as well. So definitely very grateful for that.
That's awesome. That's a great story. I love it. I love it. Well, that is our show for today. And I just want to remind everyone to don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We want you to subscribe and download our episodes. And remember that success does not happen in isolation. It really does happen because of the connections that we have. Today, your connections, that's your currency, and connections are your power move. See you next week with Success Through Connections.